Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome, friends. The cafe was almost empty that evening, the kind of quiet where even the soft clinking of cups felt like echoes. I sat at my usual corner table, my books spread out in front of me, though my eyes weren't really on the words. Outside, the city lights blurred through the glass window, glowing against the soft drizzle that had started an hour ago. I loved this place. It smelled like roasted coffee beans, vanilla, and safety. Across from me, my best friend Adrian leaned back in his chair, sipping on his latte. His eyes lingered on me longer than they usually did. That was nothing unusual, of course. Adrian always had this way of looking at people, like he was trying to read the lines of a story written across their face. But that night, something in his stare felt heavier. "You've been quiet," I said, adjusting my glasses, pretending to be absorbed in my notes. "That's not normal for you." Adrian smiled faintly, tapping his fingers against the cup. His lips parted as if he wanted to speak, but then he hesitated, glancing around at the cafe. Only 2 other people were there, and they weren't paying attention. Then he leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Do you believe in love between 2 men?" The words hit me like a sudden gust of cold wind. I froze, my pen slipping from my hand and rolling across the table. For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. "What?" I whispered, my throat dry. His eyes locked onto mine, clear and searching. "I'm asking, do you think 2 guys can love each other? Like really love each other?" The cafe noise faded. The rain outside faded. Even the smell of coffee seemed to disappear. It was just me, staring at Adrian, and those words circling in my head, filling every corner of me with confusion, curiosity, and something dangerously close to hope. Flashback the beginning. I met Adrian 7 years ago, back in high school. I was the quiet kid, always tucked away in the back row, sketching in my notebook when teachers weren't looking. Adrian was the opposite. Popular. Funny. The kind of guy who could talk his way out of detention with nothing more than a grin. But on the first week of school, when a group of seniors thought it would be funny to shove me into the lockers, it was Adrian who stepped in. He pulled me out, stood between me and them, and said, "Pick on someone your own size." That day, something shifted. From then on, we were inseparable. Late-night study sessions, weekends spent playing video games. Long walks home, where we'd talk about everything and nothing. Sometimes, when he laughed too hard, he'd clutch his stomach and lean into me. And I'd pretend not to notice how much I liked it. I told myself it was nothing. Just friendship, just safe. But now, sitting in the cafe, his question had torn the walls of that safety apart. Back in the cafe, swallowed hard, unsure of how to answer. I don't know," I said finally, my voice barely audible. "I guess. Love is love. It doesn't really matter who it's between, right?" Adrian didn't look away. If anything, his stare grew softer, almost vulnerable. "Yeah," he whispered. "That's what I think too." And just like that, the conversation shifted. He leaned back, acting casual again, but I couldn't focus anymore. My hands were trembling under the table, and every second felt stretched into eternity. That night, hours later, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling in the dark. The sound of the rain had followed me home, dripping softly against the window. But all I could hear were his words. "Do you believe in love between 2 men?" I replayed it over and over, wondering why he asked me, why his eyes looked like they were searching for more than just an answer. For the first time in years, I didn't feel safe in my own thoughts. I felt alive, and as the night dragged on, one truth burned brighter in my mind. I never expected him to ask me this. The rain had finally stopped the next morning. But inside my chest, a storm still raged. Adrian's question haunted me like a ghost I couldn't shake off. "Do you believe in love between 2 men?" I kept replaying it, imagining different tones in his voice, different meanings behind his eyes. Did he ask it casually, like he would any random question? Or was there something deeper, something he wanted me to see? The weight of expectations, society, family, tradition, all of it pressed down on me. I grew up in a home where my parents spoke often about how a man's duty was to marry a woman, have children, and carry the family name. My father would scoff at anything different. My mother would whisper prayers if she even suspected otherwise, so why? When Adrian asked me that question, did a part of me want to scream yes without hesitation? Because deep inside, I already knew. I'd known for years. I just didn't have the courage to admit it, not to my family. Not to society, not even to myself, seeing him differently that week. I noticed things about Adrian I'd never allowed myself to before. The way he always leaned slightly toward me when we talked, as if I was the only person in the room who mattered. The way his laughter lingered, warm and reckless, wrapping around me like sunlight. The way his hand would sometimes brush mine on the table, sending a jolt through me I pretended not to feel. Were these new behaviors? Or had they always been there, waiting for me to notice? Flashbacks, the protector memories crashed into me like waves. I remembered the time in high school when those same seniors tried to corner me again. Adrian had stepped in fearless, his jaw tight as he stood between me and them. "You'll have to get through me first," he'd said. And somehow, they backed off. I remembered the night I confessed, in a shaky whisper, that I was terrified of disappointing my parents. He didn't laugh, didn't call me weak. He just sat there beside me, offering quiet words. "You don't have to be who they want you to be. Just be you." I remembered when he broke his arm during a basketball game. And even in pain, he joked, "Guess you'll have to carry my bag for a month, huh?" As if the world couldn't touch him through every memory. One truth stood out. He had always been there. Always. The hints over the next few days. Adrian's behavior shifted in ways that set my heart on fire. He sat closer. Close enough that our shoulders touched when we studied. He brushed his hand against mine on purpose, leaving it there just a little too long. At night, my phone buzzed with his texts. Simple things at first. "You awake? Can't sleep. Thinking too much? Do you ever feel like we're different from everyone else?" Each message left me staring at the screen, my chest tightening. Was he trying to tell me something? Or was I just reading into it? A question in the dark one night, close to midnight, my phone lit up again. "Adrian, can we meet tomorrow? Just us. Somewhere private." I stared at the words, my breath catching in my throat. The world seemed to pause around me, holding its breath too. Somewhere private. Why? For what? 100 thoughts raced through my mind. Excitement, fear, hope, dread. My hands trembled as I typed back the only word I could manage. Yes. That night, I didn't sleep. My mind spun with images of him leaning closer, of his eyes searching mine, of what tomorrow might bring. For the first time in my life, the fear of what society or family would say began to fade, replaced by something stronger, desire, silent, undeniable, burning desire. The night air was cool against my skin as I walked toward the rooftop. Adrian had chosen the place, a quiet, hidden spot above an old library where we used to sneak up during exams to escape the noise of the world. The city spread out before us, glowing with lights, but up here, it felt like another universe. A place where time didn't exist, where we could breathe without judgment. Adrian was already there, sitting on the ledge with his legs dangling. The soft glow of the moon painting his face in silver. My heart thudded in my chest as I approached, every step echoing with uncertainty. The silence before words for a while, neither of us spoke. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic, the occasional bark of a dog, and the whisper of the wind. Adrian glanced at me, his eyes reflecting both courage and fear. I'd never seen him like this, vulnerable, almost fragile. Finally, he took a breath, his voice trembling just slightly. "I like you," he said. Then after a pause, as if to make sure I understood, he added softly, "More than just a friend." The world tilted. I froze, the words hanging in the air like fragile glass. My chest tightened, my throat dry. 1,000 emotions slammed into me all at once. Happiness, disbelief, fear, guilt. I wanted to shout with joy, to cry, to run, to hold him, to hide. Everything and nothing made sense at the same time. The battle inside, my first instinct, was fear. Not of him, but of everything else. What would my parents say if they ever knew? What would society whisper behind closed doors? Would I be judged, rejected, cast aside? And yet, beneath the storm of fear, something warmer stirred. A quiet, undeniable truth I had buried for years. I liked him too. Maybe I always had. The first touch, Adrian must have seen the war in my eyes because he didn't push. He just reached out, slowly, carefully, and placed his hand over mine. That single touch sent a shock through me, not of fear, but of recognition. His hand was warm, steady, grounding me when my world felt like it was spinning apart. My fingers trembled, then instinctively curled around his, and in that moment, everything else, the family expectations, the judgment, the noise of the world fell away. It was just us. The first embrace. I don't know who moved first. Suddenly his arms were around me. It wasn't a passionate kiss. It wasn't reckless. It was something far more intimate. A hug that spoke of years of unspoken feelings, of comfort, of safety. I buried my face in his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him. My chest ached with relief and terror all at once. He whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I've wanted to tell you for so long. The whisper in my throat tightened, words fighting to escape. I pulled back slightly, my hand still gripping his. My voice was barely audible, more breath than sound. I never expected you to ask me this. Our eyes met as filled with hope, mine with tears. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't alone. The days after Adrian's confession felt unreal. The world outside looked the same classes, the same routines, the same endless noise of life. But for us, everything had changed. We were no longer just two friends. There was something unspoken now, something sacred, a fragile thread connecting our hearts. And we both knew it had to be kept a secret. Hidden corners. Our love lived in the spaces no one else noticed. The library corner where the light was too dim for anyone to care. The back row of a cinema where our hands could touch in the dark. His car, parked on quiet streets, where conversations stretched long into the night. There was magic in the secrecy. The thrill of leaning closer without anyone knowing. Of sharing glances that carried entire conversations. Adrian would sometimes pass me a folded note with just a doodle or a single word. Mine, and I'd keep it in my pocket all day. My heart racing whenever I touched it. The sweetness of love had bring me small gifts. My favorite candy. A keychain, a pen, with a silly design. I'd laugh, pretending it was nothing. But each gift felt like a treasure, proof that I mattered to him in ways words couldn't capture. At night, we'd talk on the phone until we both fell asleep. The line would stay open, the soft sound of his breathing like a lullaby. Sometimes I'd wake in the middle of the night to his quiet whisper, "Still there?" Always, I'd answer. And though no one knew, those moments felt like the truest part of my life. The first kiss had happened one evening, after a long drive. We had parked at a quiet overlook. The city spread out below like a glittering map. We were laughing about something. Can't even remember what, when suddenly the laughter faded into silence. Adrian looked at me, his eyes searching mine. Slowly, he leaned closer. My heart pounded so hard I thought he could hear it. I didn't move away. Our lips met softly, uncertain but electric. It wasn't about passion, not yet. It was about truth. The truth that we had crossed a line and there was no going back. When we pulled away, I saw tears in his eyes. "You don't know how long I've wanted that," he whispered. I touched his cheek. So have I. The shadow of fear, but with every heartbeat of joy came the echo of fear. The fear of being seen. The fear of whispers. The fear that the world would tear apart what we were just beginning to build. We hid. But love has a way of shining through cracks. The suspicious eyes one afternoon. We were walking together too close, laughing too easily. His hand brushed mine, and for a second, we forgot the world around us. That's when I noticed her. A woman, standing across the street, watching us. Her expression unreadable, her eyes lingering too long. Adrian noticed too. The smile faded from his face. We didn't speak of it. but the fear followed us home like a shadow at first. The whispers were soft little things, like classmates smirking when we walked in together, or colleagues raising their brows when they saw how often we sat side by side. But whispers have a way of growing teeth. Soon, it wasn't just glances. It was rumors. A laugh that lingered too long. A cruel joke whispered in the hallway. The kind of silence that falls in a room when you walk in. The way everyone suddenly finds something else to look at. Gossip turns to fire one morning. I found something scrawled across the back of my notebook. Freak. I knew who had written it. I knew why. Adrian saw it too. His jaw clenched, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he tore the page out, crumpled it, and threw it away. But I could see the storm in his eyes. "They don't know us," he said quietly. "Let them talk." But the more he tried to brush it off, the heavier the words became. Families began to notice at home. The questions began. My mother's eyes lingered on me longer than usual. My father's voice grew sharp whenever Adrian's name came up. One evening, my dad snapped, "Why are you always with him? Don't you think people will start talking? Don't you care about your reputation?" "About ours?" I froze. My throat went dry. Before I could speak, my mother added softly, almost pleading, "Sweetheart, this isn't normal. You're just confused. It'll pass." But it didn't pass. And hearing those words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Cracks in our love. Adrian wasn't spared either. His older brother confronted him. "You're ruining your life. Stop before it's too late." And though Adrian acted strong, I could see how the words weighed on him when we met. He tried to be the same, smiling, joking, holding my hand in secret, but the tension was there. A wall slowly building between us. The fight came to a head one night. We were sitting in his car, parked in the same quiet place where we'd shared our first kiss. "We can't keep living like this," Adrian said. "What do you mean?" "I'm tired of hiding. I want to be with you," out loud. Without fear, my heart sank. "You know that's impossible." "Not here, not now. If we do that, they'll destroy us." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Then what's the point of loving you if I have to pretend I don't?" The words hit me like a blow. I wanted to scream, to tell him I loved him enough to endure the silence, the hiding, the pain. But instead, my own fear betrayed me. Maybe we should stay apart. Just for now. Until it's safe. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Adrian didn't look at me. He just started the car. And as the engine hummed to life, I realized that for the first time since this began, I was truly afraid. Not of the world, not of the whispers, but of losing him. Time has a cruel way of testing the heart. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Adrian and I stopped meeting, stopped calling. At first, it was just silence, awkward pauses, unanswered texts, excuses about being too busy. But soon, the silence became something sharper. It became absence. Drifting apart, my family thought I was healing, that I was returning to normal. My father even introduced me to the daughter of a family friend. She was kind, polite, and smiled in all the right places. So, I agreed. I let her sit across from me at a restaurant, her laughter filling the air where Adrian's voice used to be. I let her slip her hand into mine while my parents looked on approvingly. But inside, I was hollow. Every touch felt wrong. Every laugh felt forced. And every time she looked into my eyes, I wanted to turn away, because all I saw was Adrian's face. The face I wasn't supposed to miss. Adrian's silence. Meanwhile, Adrian vanished into his own shadows. He stopped showing up at the cafe where we used to study, stopped hanging out at our favorite spots. When I did see him across campus, his smile was faint, polite, like I was just another stranger. It hurt worse than the rumors, worse than my father's lectures, because this wasn't the world tearing us apart. This was us doing it to ourselves, the night everything changed then. One night, everything collapsed. It was late when my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. A shaky voice on the other end. "Are you?" Are you his friend? Adrian's been in an accident. He's at the hospital. My blood turned to ice. I don't even remember how I got there, if I drove, if I ran. All I know is that the sterile white walls of the hospital blurred as I rushed to his side. And there he was. Pale, hooked up to wires and monitors, his hand limp against the sheets. My chest clenched like a fist. "Adrian," I whispered, grabbing his hand. "Don't you dare leave me. Not like this." For the first time in months, tears came. Hot, relentless, breaking past the walls I had built. The realization when he stirred. His lips parting slightly, I leaned closer. His voice was weak, almost broken. "Why are you here?" "Thought you moved on." I shook my head furiously, tears dripping onto his arm. I tried. God, I tried. But no one is you. Nothing is you. And I can't live pretending anymore. Not if it means losing you. His eyes, even dimmed with pain, still held that fire I knew so well. His fingers twitched, curling around mine. "Then don't let go. Not this time." The promise that night, sitting by his bedside. I made a vow, not to my parents. Not to society. Not even to myself. But to him. To us, we fight. No matter what they say. No matter how hard it gets. "I'm done running, Adrian. I choose you," he smiled faintly. A single tear slipping down his cheek, and for the first time in months, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was healing. Seasons changed. The pain, the rumors, the whispers, all of it became a part of our history. Not the end of our story. Facing the world, we graduated on a warm spring afternoon. The campus lawn was filled with caps and gowns, laughter echoing in every corner. Families gathered, cheering for their children. Mine sat stiffly in the crowd, not clapping, not smiling. But Adrian's parents were there, beaming with pride, holding flowers, waving wildly when he crossed the stage. When my name was called, I walked across, my heart pounding. And there he was, in the front row, standing tall, clapping louder than anyone else. His voice cut through the noise. "That's my guy." I smiled. Not because of the degree in my hand, but because of the man waiting for me at the end of it all. Dreams and struggles, we built our lives brick by brick, sometimes shaky, sometimes strong. Late nights studying for jobs, cheap takeout dinners, renting a tiny apartment with a leaky sink and one squeaky chair we both refused to throw away. The world still judged us. Some friends drifted away, unwilling to understand. My father barely spoke to me. My mother only called on holidays. But Adrian was there. Through every rejection, every doubt, every moment of exhaustion, and I was there for him, holding his hand before interviews, editing his resumes, making coffee at 2 a.m. when he stayed up sketching designs for his career. We weren't perfect, but we were real, and that was enough. A shift in the tide. It didn't happen all at once, but little by little, the walls began to crack. My sister visited one afternoon, awkwardly sipping tea at our table. She didn't say much, but she didn't leave either. Months later, my mother showed up with a bag of groceries. Mumbling about making sure you're eating properly, she avoided looking at Adrian at first. But by the time dinner was over, she asked him about his job, about his dreams. It wasn't full acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. The reflection years later, on a quiet evening, Adrian and I walked through the city streets. Streetlights glowed above us, our shadows stretching side by side. People passed us, some staring, most not. For the first time, I didn't care. I slipped my hand into his, holding it firmly in the open air. No more hiding. No more fear. Just us. As we walked, I thought back to that cafe. That single question that had set everything into motion. Do you believe in love between two men? I had never expected it, but it changed my life. It gave me him. The ending scene? Adrian squeezed my hand, smiling softly. Forever. I looked at him, my heart calm, my answer certain. Forever and always. And together. Under the city lights, we kept walking, two souls, one love, unafraid of the world at last.